And hello, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a husband of a scientist. It is Saturday, September 27th at 7 p.m. and I am live. Why am I live? Because I go live every now and then to answer your questions and to talk about my job. And when do I go live? It is totally random. So I've done all my dad stuff. I've done most of my dad stuff for the day. So I figure I would have time to go live. And sorry for coughing. Good evening, Mr. Schwartz. And Gavin, hey, how's that line treating you? See that thing they had in Roanoke? Oops. Um, so it's been a really good month for September, and I was gonna have the rest of the month off, but then a trip opened up, and I was like, man, it's an easy trip. So I'm doing one more trip for the month. That's why the camera's shutting down. Uh, where did you email me and when? Because I've decided that I respond to emails and DMs for the most part just 2 days a week. I was doing it daily and it became overwhelming. So I had to go down to just doing correspondence just 2 days a week. So if you get to me on the wrong day, then it might be a little bit longer for me to reply to you. But my goal is to reply to every single email though. Um, huh. I did just find an email from somebody from Max Grossman that I didn't. Huh. Anyways, just found this email. So I'm going to star this email and try to reply to it on my next social media reply day. Hey, Mr. Robbins, it's about time. That year, if your RJ is going off the runways at all, it is. And you know, I'm betting, Gavin, on the 145. If you're like most 145 pilots, I'm guessing most people are, that when you land in the 145, for the most part, you can just do idle reverse because once those buckets come out, it's a huge speed break on its own. And you can add the actual thrust reverse, but normally when I flew the 145, unless it was a really short runway, I would just land, pop it in reverse, and just do idle reverse. And once those buckets came out, it was much smoother and quieter that way as well. Had my first lesson this week from PPL, and thank you for recommending OBAP even for 0 hours. Matt, I'm glad you went there. And again, I can't stress enough how important, because when I was a coming up pilot, actually when I was at my regionals, my friends told me to go to OBAP, and I never did. Cause I thought it's not for me. It is for you. If you have 0 hours of flight time, if you're a parent of a kid that has never touched an airplane but wants to be a pilot, go to an aviation convention, even OBAP. And I'm going to say it in the most respectful way possible. Even if you are a blonde-headed white kid from Iowa, go to OBAP. Thank you. Southern Utah. Hey, Mr. Ridout. Hey, Rob from down under. That's someone else. It is someone else. Depends on the way you emailed me to, Max. He talks about Charlotte and how you aren't fond of it. Just curious what makes it difficult. I know Newark is not well designed. Thanks. Be safe. So, Mr. Horton, great question. Why is Charlotte so horrible? So, the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, in my personal opinion, was designed to be a regional airport. And if you look at an airport diagram, the gates are all shoved together. There's that much space between them. The ramp is horrible. Getting from the gate to a runway or a runway to a gate is an atrocious process. Even if you are parking on the E gates on the northeast side of the airport and you land on 18 right, you must traverse all the other ramps to get around to your gate. You can't just simply go up, I think it was the Echo or Mike taxiway, and around to your gate. On the way out, you leave one of the E gates and you're departing 18 center or 36 center. You must traverse all the other ramps to get out as well. It's a horribly designed airport. City is fine. Nothing wrong with the city. It's just the ramp. The concourse also, again, I haven't been there in a year and a half. Well, I haven't flown in there as a pilot since February 2025. My last flight, I believe, was on the Airbus was Charlotte to Dallas. The carpet in the E-gates was very high traction as well, which is not what you want as a passenger pulling luggage. So it's applying for college, go to all the conventions, and apply to all the small scholarships. Exactly. Had a crazy bird strike the other day. Hit a flock of geese 100 feet above the ground on a stable approach. Captain called for go around. In retrospect, we should have continued. What would you do? At 100 feet above the ground, I'd land. I wouldn't go around at all. That's just my opinion, right? If you're coming down, landing is assured, right? And even at 200 feet above the ground, if you hit birds, landing is assured. I would rather continue on and land than do a go around and have compromised engines, maybe. That's my opinion, though. Hey, Joseph. Hi, Darren. Love your videos. A fan from Scotland. Would you ever be allowed to film a full flight with GoPro cameras like a few European pilots do? Super cool, fun, happy guy? No. At my airline, and if you notice, I film a lot with my meta glasses. I'm not wearing them right now, but my meta glasses have the cameras in them. I can only have those meta glasses on up until about 10 to 15 minutes before we leave the gate. 10 to 15 minutes before we leave the gate, I have to turn off all of my personal electronic devices. So both my phones get turned off, even the silly watch gets turned off. And of course my glasses, I take the glasses off entirely so that no one can ever say, well, you wore those glasses while you were flying. I put on normal glasses and I fly. At my airline specifically states 0 personal electronic devices can be used while we are flying, except when I'm on break. So when I go on break, I can use whatever I want to. So I'm on break in the bunk or on break in the first class chair or whatever, I can use my devices then. But on the flight deck, it is purely prohibited, point blank, no excuses, no exceptions at all. And I do want to go to Scotland one day. And I also lost our pressurization system last week climbing out of Canada. Those 145s are getting old. They are getting old. Gavin, many years ago, I had to take a 145 down to Puebla, Mexico. It's next to a volcano. And it was manual pressurization. The captain flew down, I flew back. It was a very tedious flight. Like, basically, the captain was single pilot. And what I'm talking about is, on a normal aircraft, when you take off, on most aircraft, you pressurize a little bit before takeoff to avoid a bump in your ears. And then as you climb up, the cabin keeps a certain pressurization rate all the way up, right? Generally speaking, at 37,000 feet, you're about 7,000 to 8,000 feet real altitude, like cabin altitude anyway. Anyways, that has to be managed normally by a computer. Well, on this particular flight, the computer was broken, so I was the computer. And I had to look at this chart and look at our altitude and look at our climbing rate and kept adjusting the valve manually on that little pedestal. It was very annoying, and I never want to do that again. I've also flown around unpressurized before too. The jet had a broken pressurization system, so we flew around just around Texas, right? So we did like Dallas to Waco, College Station, Tyler, these 100-mile flights, unpressurized. So we're flying at like 8,000 feet in a jet. It wasn't fun. Getting from my mainline aircraft to a regional aircraft is atrocious. I've never been in an airport with a long walk that doesn't have a moving walkway. So, moving walkways, there have been studies when some people need moving walkways, people have mobility issues, but the general traveling public, whenever they encounter a moving walkway, they slow down their rate of walking. Ian and Darren, is Honolulu approach challenging? Through there last week, seemed like a lot of steep turns, landing inboard runway. Not really. Generally speaking, of Honolulu, when we come in, if the airport's here, we're kind of right downwind. We come in and we just take a big right turn and line up for I think 8 left. It can be very windy, but not too challenging though. And leaving there is a pretty quick right turn to avoid all the hotels noise. Upon landing, how much of the braking action of the plane is automatic versus adjusted by the pilots? Auto braking. Mr. Ridout, great question. Depends on the aircraft. So on my current 777, it depends on the landing and what the pilot wants. I would say about half the pilots, if it's a normal long runway, like 10,000 feet, will use like auto brake 2 just to get the braking started because we don't need to slam on the brakes. And then we'll transition to manual braking. So auto brake 2 applies some braking force. We'll come in with our own feet knock the outer brakes off, and then apply braking that way. If we know we're getting off at the end of the runway, like toward the very, very end, like in Madrid, my video I'm working on right now, we might not even use auto brakes. Might just come in and let friction do its course and idle reverse because we're going down to the end anyway. If it's a short runway, some people will use like auto brakes 3 or 4 and then quickly go over to manual braking. But like regional jets, not all RJs have auto brakes. It's an option on the 175. I don't think any CRJs have it, and I don't think any Embraer 145s have it either. Hello, got a question about the triple. What's the technique to land it? When do you flare, and when do you cut to idle? Robert, 19. Every landing is different and unique. Generally speaking, I land the triple the same way I land the Airbus, actually. At 50 feet, I think about flaring, but I don't flare. At 40 feet, I'm like, okay, Darren, get ready to flare, but I don't flare. At 30 feet, I'm like, okay, it's time to flare. And I start my flare at 30 feet. By 20 feet, I'm fully in the flare. And between 20 and 10 feet, 20 feet and 0, it's a gradual thrust reduction. I think it starts reducing thrust at 50 feet, gradually all the way down. On the Airbus, we had to manually move the thrust all the way down. But generally speaking, between 30 and 20 feet is when the flare begins on the average landing. Now, if it's really gusty or windy, I'll change it. If it's a wet runway, it could have pooling water. I'll have a more firm landing, but generally speaking, between 20 and 30 feet. Hey, since last watching, I passed my CFI check ride now on a CFII. Dude, Mr. Oatmeal, knuckles to you, man. Your shoulders must be up by your ears now. All the weight off your shoulders is gone. That CFI ride is pretty rough. It's pretty rough ride. And the CFII, it's not easy, but the hard part is behind you. Congratulations, young man. Qantas released the Airbus XLR 321. Have you heard of it? I have heard of it, Rob. And I heard some controversy about that airplane. Apparently, Qantas didn't put enough restrooms in the back of the airplane. I guess they only put 2 lavs in the back for 177 passengers and not the normal 3. Like we have, on our 321s, we have 4 lavs total. 1 up front and 3 in the back. And the article I saw about Qantas only had 2 in the back. And they have some crazy long flights, right? My airline is ordering the XLR. It's supposed to be a really fuel-efficient Airbus with even more extra fuel tanks on board. Evening, Mr. Rumsey. Darren, wondering if the 777-300 handles differently than 200. It does handle differently, Mr. Kalk. The 300, in my personal opinion, seems to have more consistent, smooth landing than the 200. Why? I don't know. But that's my experience on it so far. I'll have to look on my logbook and see what I have. I better have more time in the 200 than the 300, simply because the 300 only goes to London for now, out of Dallas. Next year, though, it is going to Haneda and to Madrid, so be more options that way. Do you value the chair flying? I do. Specifically, when you are early in training. Mr. Bowers, yes. Chair flying is critical, especially when you're in the beginning, getting that muscle memory down. And I recommend chair flying this way. First, do it in a quiet room like I am right now, right? Then put on the most annoying music you can't stand. Crap you can't stand, and put it in your ears. And then chair fly. And then, when you get better, chair fly while throwing a ball against the wall. Chair fly while throwing a ball in the air. Why? Why, Darren? Because it gets you distracted and upset and annoyed. Because we can all learn in a quiet room. Anyone can learn anything in a quiet room. But when you're in that airplane flight deck, cockpit, you're nervous. It's shaking. There's smells. There's outside distractions. So learn in a quiet room, absolutely. But then learn and chair fly when you're distracted. Because if you can listen to the most annoying music in the world and throw a ball in the air and still chair flying, get everything right, when you're flying next to that CFI or that old man or old woman examiner, piece of cake. Are you allowed to film Part 91 flights? Nope. Doesn't matter. My airline specifically states 0 electronics. Doesn't matter. It's Part 91 and Part 121. It's a shame. It'd be very interesting to do a video flight, right? Like I'm going to be doing a very interesting flight to Hong Kong soon, and it'll be empty, but no filming on board. And then I'm close to taking my commercial check ride. Any advice or tips? have a sense of authority about yourself. You passed many check rides by now, right? But everything should be smooth. And remember, set the pace of the check ride. Don't let the examiner rush you. It might have been a while since your last check ride, right? And it might have been your instrument like 3 or 4 months ago. So you know what it's like to pass a check ride. Set the pace of the check ride. Everything should be smooth and a sense of authority. Darren, as a commercial pilot, are you permitted to fly private contracts on days off? I can fly for, if I want to fly for compensation, I can do it with permission from my airline. Similar for the military pilots. Check ride in 5 days. The nerves are starting to kick in. Nick, nerves help performance generally. The manual controller is such a pain. It is a pain. That's how far behind I am. Thankfully, both the auto and manual system failed, so we just dumped the cabin and hung at 10,000 feet. Thankfully. It's a good story for later on, though. Hey, Darren, I have a question. How long did it take you to go from IT geek to your first job? I started flying May 5th, 2006. I was hired October 07. Different hiring times back then. Love the umbrella for your, I love the thumbnail for your London Rome videos. Summer season's over. Is there a destination your aircraft flies during the winter that you would like to fly to? I still haven't been to Frankfurt, but I'm not sure we do go there in the winter time though. I'm not sure where we're going in the winter because it's only my second winter on the aircraft. Last year we went to Amsterdam during August. We're not going there this year. Not really. I can think of off the top of my head. Under what conditions do you have to divert if the lavatories break or become full? It's not certain conditions. Every diversion is unique, and we have like 10 lavatories on board. It'd be rare for all of them to go bad at once, but it's all handled on a case-by-case basis, and we always deal with dispatch and our operations center, and we all get together and figure out what the best course of action is. Hey, Ryan, dude, knuckles to you. You're a freaking private pilot, man. You did it. All the stress, all the worrying, all the driving home thinking, man, I have made a mistake. I am going to waste so much money. I have made a huge financial mistake, which I will never recover from this. You did it. It's easy to say one day I'll learn to fly. You freaking learn to fly and you have your private pilot license, dude. So you can celebrate now. And then in a few weeks, piece of plastic mail. I'm waiting for my own plastic mail for my CFI renewal. You can celebrate again. Dude, knuckles to you, man. Congratulations. Mr. Blacksmith. 777, the largest plane I've ever flown at my airline. Oh, 777-300 is the largest plane on my airline. 777-300 is the largest plane on my airline. Yes. At your airline, is a max demonstrated crosswind a hard limit? It is not. Hey, Darren, I'm on the fence bidding 777. I'll be below you, but I'm hoping as long as I'm a line holder, I can maintain my junior's captain salary as FO steady is a line for you. Oh, how to say it's a line for me. So I've been a line holder every month this year, except for when I bid vacation, I think I bid reserve. And then in June, all the LAX FOs who are here TDY pushed me down. But I've been a line holder every month. And as far as the captain salary, you see my videos. I'm a hustler. My goal is 91 hours a month. I've far exceeded that. I hit a new record this month. It's be like 160 hours. Due to some luck and bad timing and luck. You plan on retiring at 65? Yes. I do want to retire early, Gavin, but I have kids. I'll be in college, so I'm 62 because we started late. You guys still do NDB approaches? We do not. Hey, Blizzard, love your videos. Thank you very much. What's the difference between an ILS Yankee, Zulu, or an IV Yankee and Zulu? It's just different. It's a different procedure for whatever reason. So it might have different minimums. It might have different waypoints. Most time it's different minimums or a different way of getting in. A Yankee might be straight in. A Zulu might be an arc to get in. If there's something you would change as a pilot in your organization, what would it be? Make our contract easier to understand. In an upcoming video, spoiler alert, I had a 3-day trip turn into a 6-day trip, and it involved lots of calls to contracts. That tip about annoying music ball throwing is really good advice. Thank you. Max, you're very welcome. There'll be a video about Hong Kong eventually. Is it Hong Kong a ferry flight? It's a ferry flight, but I think it's just for maintenance, not for interior free refresh, but I have no idea. Hey, dear, what made you want to start flying? My wife and wanting to get out of a cubicle. My small background is I went to college to be a high school teacher for newspaper and yearbook. Ended up not wanting to teach. Entered IT because I've been a geek since I was like in 6th grade. Entered the IT field with 0 certifications but lots of knowledge. Had to prove myself. 9/11 happened. I got laid off from being a teacher. I taught computer repair. I ended up at a temporary job doing computer repair for NCR. I was on the floor of a 7-Eleven at 3 in the morning, and when I realized this is not where I want to be. But yeah. The pressurization on my military check rides. I fail. I'm on the next plane to Vietnam in the infantry. That sucks. Oh, yes, I get it. Ha ha ha. I love watching your videos, especially while I'm making saving, makes me motivated. Hey, Mr. Muhammad, look for grants and scholarships as well, and thank you very much. As someone who is in neither a pilot nor in flight school, why is C5 the easy way to build hours? Because you get paid to fly, right? So getting your hours in, you can either pay to fly, rent a plane, or get paid to fly by teaching others to fly. When C5 is instructing, does that count toward building time? It does. Can pilots put in a no list for certain countries, airports, or do you just drop trips if you don't want to avoid a particular place? Great question, P-Short Gamer. You can if you're senior enough. Because if you watch my videos, you know I'm very junior, right? I'm like at 71%-ish, which is still pretty junior on my aircraft. So I can say I want a line, but I don't want to go to London. Well, the problem is that is the junior destination from my base. So if I say I'm not going to London, the system will be like, oh, okay, well, you're on reserve then, because I couldn't hold anything else. Now, if I was on a narrow body, and let's say my crazy ex-girlfriend lives in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm like, listen, she be crazy. She stalks me. I don't ever want to fly to Des Moines, Iowa, because she works in the tower in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm afraid of her. I can put in my bids, do not ever let me go to Des Moines, Iowa, and chances are I can avoid going to Des Moines, Iowa. Captain Whip, yeah. So again, I got lucky this month. Yeah, I had a 3-day trip to London. I was supposed to go Dallas, London, London, LA, to head home. I went Dallas, London, ferried a plane to Madrid, and then got stuck in Madrid for a couple days. And then by the time I left Madrid, I could only go to I had to go deadhead, I had to go from Madrid to Chicago, deadhead, and Chicago to home. That was a 6-day long trip. I was supposed to go to Paris the next day. Couldn't do it due to the fires. Got removed from Paris with pay. 20-hour trip. And then I was able to pick up another trip on top of it. So I've gotten lucky this month. Stuck in Madrid. I bought an Aeronautica Champ. Plan to use it as a time builder. Very smart. So not much instrument training. However, your thoughts. Joseph, dude, time is time. If it's a VFR only plane, who cares? You own your own airplane. You could probably fly it cheaper than you can rent a plane, right? Fly that plane till you're done flying, right? Pick some routing where you can fly VFR almost every day. Make tour the world, not the world, but the tour of the United States anyway. Airlines don't care if it's instrument or regular. Instrument or VFR. For a medical emergency, would you land or wait in 777, or would that always be a fuel dump? Brian, that's a great question. And that's something we consider for every single takeoff, right? We talk about what ifs, right? So it depends on the medical emergency. I'll give you a few examples. This is not an exhaustive list, and this is not speaking for my airline, and this is not always happens. We take off out of Dallas. A woman in the back is 9 months pregnant. It doesn't matter. A woman in the back goes into active labor. We're probably coming back to Dallas right away. We take off out of Dallas. Someone in the back has chest pain. And then they pass out. And there's active CPR. We're probably coming back to Dallas. We take off out of Dallas. A person has horrible stomach pains. They're stuck in the lavatory. We keep on going. So, and as far as overweight, an overweight landing, as long as the runway can support it, is fine. The runway in Dallas is 13,400 feet long. We can land there even at full max ramp weight of a 777-300, even at 775,000 pounds max takeoff weight. We can take off out of DFW, come back and land on 18 right, no problem. Now, if we take off out of, let's say, Maui, much shorter runway, we have an issue there. We're going over to Honolulu instead because it's a longer runway there. Do you still miss Caribbean trips when I've been on the Airbus? TB3, I do. I do. The things I miss most about the Airbus are flying the Caribbean all year long, my tray table, and the logic of the Airbus. But that is not as big of a deal as the lifestyle the 777 gives me. I fly one flight a day for the most part, and that's it. One flight a day, and I go to a hotel, and I get to go to a nice hotel. I do not miss the narrow body hotels. We stay at much on. I have a trip next month where it has a deadhead to another base, and I have to stay in a normal hotel. I am not looking forward to it. Funny you mentioned that my crazy ex-girlfriend lives in Des Moines. See, so you understand. But I actually like Des Moines, Iowa. Darren, how long do you think you could hold a 777 captain at DFW? Could you hold it right now at another base of airline? I could not hold it right now at another base. I think the junior base for 777 captain is New York. I can't hold it for another 8 years, I think. Will I do that? Probably not. I've flown with so many senior wide-body first officers that make more money and have a better quality of life than the wide-body captains. If you are a top 10% wide-body first officer, you're flying the best trips with the best quality of life. That top 10% wide-body first officer might be a 60, maybe probably a 70 or 80% captain of the wide body, meaning you're on reserve flying to London. So you got to pick. Do you want quality of life, great trips, make the money you want to make, or do you want to make the captain and a wide body and have little choice over your destination? I'm not in a position where I'm going to retire at the top of the airline. I'm going to retire like number 980-ish, I think. Last time I looked. That will be right now, number 980 is a 50-ish% captain on the 777 in Dallas. So a little London, a little everywhere else, but not super senior. So we'll see. How do you manage to have those short sleeps during breaks? Does it mess with your circadian rhythm? Great question. I was worried about that, right? I was told if you can't sleep on a wide body, you will hate this job. Thankfully, I start when I have a trip, I start thinking about my breaks that morning. So my typical wake up time is between 5 and 6 in the morning. If I have a trip that afternoon or evening, I have no coffee that morning. I start off in the morning with no coffee. Then I'll exercise. Nothing crazy. You know, I'm a typical suburban dad. For half an hour to 45 minutes on a treadmill at 3.5 to 4 miles per hour playing my Nintendo Switch. Right? So I'm gonna exercise. Go to work. Get hit on the airplane, and then once my break time, I go to the bunk, put on my pullover. I make the room nice and normally cold to start. I put in my Pixel Buds 2, Pixel Bud Pro 2s, block out all the noise. Then I put on my eye mask. I can't hear a single thing. Or I go to the chair. If I'm on a 200, I can go to the business class chair, sit there, put my blanket on, pillow, Pixel Bud Pro 2s, put on the headphones from the airline that they have for all the business class passengers, put on my eye mask, blocks out all the light, all the noise, lean back, and sleep. So, thankfully, I can almost sleep on command. Most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work, though. Buenos Aires trips are not on the 777 out of my base right now, but they do have Santiago, Chile. How often do passengers bring you guys gifts, candy? Really common on the Airbus, not on the 777. I bring some every time for the flight cabin crew, sweet and sour, so people can have their pick. Oh, that's awesome, DJ. On the wide body, it almost never happens, though. More common on the narrow body. Hi, Darren. When do you find out that you have to go into holding when landing in London? Who tells you you have to leave the hold? Great question. On the London approach, London stars, the arrival routings, It tells you your clearance limit is this VOR, or this fix. You will hold there. You always expect to hold there. You hold unless told to do so otherwise. And then the controller tells you when to leave. Hey Darren, ATC working at a Z, interested in ATC here in other countries. Oh yeah. Other country ATC, they tend to be more formal with their wording. Their English is not always very good. I say most are very formal with their wording. Some of them are kind of loose with it. I'll never forget one time I was going to St. Martin, and they're like, "Flight da 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 da, hold press position. I'll call you back." No EFC time, no holding fix. Just hold where you are. I'll call you back later. Um, but other countries tend to be more formal with their commands, um, and sometimes even micromanaging. Like London will have us turn right 5 degrees. 5 degrees, really? I'm starting a maintenance at the Blue Airline. Any tips from your end on what we can do to make your job easier? I mean, maintenance. All my mechanics I've ever encountered, even here in my old airline, they're all really good, and all of them want to fix the issue. But as you know, there's line maintenance and there's overnight maintenance. There's all kind of mechanics, right? And sometimes they just don't have time. Um, I guess the biggest thing is write in the logbook clearly, because we still have paper logbooks on the Widebody. Clear expectations in the logbooks, and if you can give us some kind of ETA. I know you might not have the perfect ETA, but is this a half an hour plus paperwork repair or a 2 hour plus paperwork repair? When you waive a deadhead to go home early, like when you left LAX to make it home for school day one, do you need to tell scheduling, or do you lose pay not having to overnight? So it depends. If I waive my deadhead and take an A pass, meaning a guaranteed seat home, I must tell scheduling. However, let's say I lived in Des Moines and was supposed to do Dallas to LA and then head back the next day to Dallas. I can go to LA and this non-rev home to Des Moines, and I'm fine. I never lose pay though. I always get paid for the deadhead. How many pairs of glasses do you own? A lot. I used to have 140 pair of glasses. Then I was still wearing bifocals, progressives. I'm down to like 50 pair of glasses. What do you think of the Westchester County Airport? Cool, Kev. I've flown there a few times. Very congested. If I remember correctly, it has this one runway, about 6,000 and change feet. No, maybe 8,000 and change. It's 8,000 and change. I think it's 8,000 and change. KHPN runway link. It is. I typed it wrong. Oh, it is 6,500 feet long. How longer than that? Oh, there's 2 runways. I thought there was one. Well, the other one I couldn't use. Very congested. Having that one terminal, and when I haven't been there since 2015, 2016, 16. One runway seems very congested, but no other issues though. Nice hotels in the area because it's a very ritzy area. Looking forward to seeing the 3-day turn to 6 days. Yeah, Rob, it was crazy. Does your airline have mandatory upgrade from FO to captain? They do not. Were there not enough New York-based FOs for the Milan trip? Probably not. So every airline borrows pilots from other bases when they need to. So they needed to borrow. They didn't have enough pilots in New York, I guess. They borrowed one from Dallas. And if I start a trip from another base, they always have to get me there and back. But I'll never pick up a base. I'll never pick up a trip from another base. That's not what I want to do. I'm too lazy for that. Are you going to any of the auto shows at the State Fair this year? I am. We're going to the State Fair, Texas. Should be October 10th or 12th. And I'm also going to the LA Auto Show in November. Hey, Darren, I'm going to have my declared flight on Tuesday. Travel on Gardner. Awesome. Have a light breakfast and bring a bottle of water with you if you can, because you might have greasy stomach, or you might have a dry mouth up there as well. What international cell phone service do you use? Great question. So I use T-Mobile for my iPhone, and my Android phone is downstairs. I was previously using giffgaff for Europe. Just today, I switched to, and I had Boost Mobile for domestic. I just today went to US Mobile because they give me 20 gigs of international data around the world every month, and the total cost will be $27 a month if prepaid annually, including taxes. So I'm paying 27 bucks a month for US Mobile, and I was previously paying 25 for Boost and 10 for GiftGaff. So I'm saving money, and now my Android phone will work in Asia. I want to say thank you for the channel. Very inspiring for me, who's going to start my PPL next spring up here in Seattle. Any tips for constellation between full-time job and flight school? Yeah, Mr. Barbosa. First, if you can, start reading now. Saying next spring, get the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, called a FAQ, and the Airplane Flying Handbook. They're free from the FAA right now. There's PDF form. Put them on your phone, read them on your breaks, whatever else at work. And then if you can find a CFI or a flight school that can work with your schedule, make a schedule and stick to it. And if you're married, got kids, whatever else, you got to tell them, listen, I'm starting this journey. This is what I want to do. You cannot waver from this. I don't, it can suck, but even like family events, whatever else, you got to stick to the schedule. You can't say, hey, I'm going to go 3 times this week, but next week I'm going to come 1 time next week. You have to stick to your schedule. If you don't, you get lax and you end up spending more money on training. Do you think the XLR AE training will go super senior? Yes, it will go very senior for a while. But I think it'll go senior because people will bid it so they get displaced off of it because they'll use those trips for training. I don't think they'll be very desirable trips, in my opinion. I bet they'll be 3-day trips at $15.45 pay, 24-hour overnights. I don't think they'll be very desirable. Do you internally rate your landings? I do. And critique myself to improve? I do. I know you mentioned them for your colleagues in your arrival brief at the hotels. Yeah, I do critique myself on landings. I've only had like 38 landings in the 777 in a year and a half. So, my next 2 trips are FO trips. So I should have 2 more landings here soon. What do you think of European airline crews? Do they spend their overnight in Denver? What do you think the overnight airline crews do when they spend their overnights in Denver? I bet they do what we do when I spend my overnight in London. They explore around the hotel area and maybe rent a car and go somewhere. But Denver is kind of crappy but even in Denver, we had overnight hotels by the airport, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and we had downtown Denver overnight hotels. So I bet like a Lufthansa probably stays downtown Denver and not by the airport. If a plane needs maintenance when you're outside the United States, what happens if the maintenance is too extensive? Will the airline fly in their own staff? Great question, DeBracy. Yes. For example, if we're in the Caribbean and we need like it's happened actually on the Airbus. We were landing in St. Lucia, and me and the captain's altimeters were different on landing. Our airspeed was different. Our airspeed indicators were different on arrival, right? The airline sent our mechanics over there to fix it. It depends on the extent of the maintenance, but yeah. And if need be, they'll send our mechanics out there, fix it enough, and ferry it back. You have a great voice. Have you ever considered narration for audiobooks or voiceovers, perhaps after retirement? Thank you, Max Brandon. I have to practice at this. Whenever you see me touch my chin, because I have a stutter. So I have to really enunciate my words and think about every single word I say before I say it. I have not always had such a clear speaking voice, and this is not how I speak to my family. I have a whole different persona I use for my videos. Are there any special protocols when a celebrity is on board? Nope. And we're not notified in advance. No. I can put. I look to my left. On my EFB, I can put up a full passenger list. I can see who all the top tier passengers are on board, and all the other stuff I can see on board. Can you use the new DFW custom shortcut for arriving London flights as crew? Cannot. Isn't that funny though? So if you don't know, my airline and the customs have worked out a deal where if you come in from London on certain flights and are connecting to Abilene or Des Moines, you can bypass customs and go straight to your next gate. But crew, I have to go through normal. Why? Are you still working on socializing with flight crew on your trips? I am, but the problem I'm running into lately is there's a huge age gap. Yeah, I'm not young, right? I'm 48, but the guys and gals I'm flying with, they're like 60 plus, and they're just tired. So it's what it is. Um, I haven't gone out with the crew in a while. On my next trip, I probably will because of the destination. We'll see. Can you explain why some Airbus models need to leave their flaps on the ground when it's hot? Do all airlines do this? So, Mr. Mosu, you're testing my Airbus knowledge. It's been a year and a half since I've flown the airplane. I believe it is when it's like 40 degrees Celsius or above. I mean, maybe it's 35 degrees Celsius. No, it's some kind of hot temperature above. Um, Hot air can be trapped on the leading edge of the wing, and it can set off a false sensor. So we leave the flaps at 1 so that the slats stay down. Um, I believe it's only on certain Airbus models. The problem is my airline has like 400 Airbuses from various generations. So to keep it easy, they do the same procedure on all of them. If my airline had a 757, would I still have considered switching it over to the 777? I probably would fly the 75 over to 777 if I could. If I could. So if you follow my Facebook, you already know this. For next month, I did have 3 London trips and 1 Dublin trip as my line. I have now dropped 1 London. So next month I have 2 Londons, a Dublin, and a Madrid, and a Hong Kong, somewhere mixed in there, right? So it'll be an interesting month. The 2 Londons I don't really want to do, but they're placeholders until I can find something better. I do want to go to Dublin if I can. Madrid is an interesting trip. I kind of like Madrid more than Barcelona. And then again, those 2 Londons, we'll see. And the Hong Kong trip is a special trip that is not normal. I got lucky in that one. Almost done with the live. My throat's getting dry, and it's been 42 minutes. Why do you think your airline hasn't ordered a 777X to replace some of the older 300s? I have no idea. That is a whole. There are people at every airline that look at the market planning, and they look at where they need planes for certain routing, and those people have not decided to order the airplane. So, my next video will be up on Thursday. Of course, I might have 2 videos this week. I'm trying to work on an extra video about my cars if I can. If not, it'll be about Madrid. Nothing spectacular. This was a very average trip. We had some weather leaving Dallas. But beyond that, it was a pretty average trip. And so I'm trying to have something else exciting to look at as well. 777X is too big for US carriers. Yeah, I think they went to 9 or 8 or something. So, but my name is Darren. I am a dad. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a husband of a scientist. I go live randomly. When I go live, subscribe, click the notification bell. Otherwise, I think I'm done. You know, any FOs or captains that have a special an SI medical at my airline. Last one will be Mr. Davis. I know they have special issuances here, but we don't typically talk about medicals. So, couldn't tell you. You guys have a great night. Thank you for stopping by. Again, my name is Darren. I'm a dad. I'm a scientist. Make videos once a week on Thursdays. Please subscribe, drop a comment, click like. Have a great day, and thank you for stopping by. Boo! Quick stop.